So we did two types of division. One is synthetic division. That's when you just put the number in the little box, take all the coefficients. We're going to review that too. But the other kind was long division, and we just didn't do all these because it's a lot. So I'm going to just do a couple of these sort of as a warm-up. I'm going to start with 16. Bless you. And this is the reason why you need long division, because usually what I get asked is, but synthetic division is so much easier. Why can't we just do that for every problem? Why does there have to be another method? Look at this one. I'm going to start with 16, everybody. The first thing you would do is decide what makes this 0. And you can't do that. Like, you know, if it was x, like this one, x minus 2, just be like, oh, it's 2, right? It doesn't work if there's a squared in there. So if you have a squared in there, you're going to have to do long division. So we're going to start with 16. This is where it would be necessary to have a long division. So you compare the first two terms. So, hey guys, I need to turn an x squared into an x to the 4th. What would I multiply by? Good. X squared goes right up here. Don't draw these little rainbows on your paper. I'm going to have to erase them. It's going to get really cluttered, but I'm just trying to show you. You're going to distribute through there. And this is mostly about staying organized, keeping your columns lined up. The 4ths will line up, the 3rds will line up, the squareds will line up. Like, it will all line up. If you distribute through here, you're going to get x to the 4th plus what? Go to the next one. 3x cubed, good. And again, they'll line up, and then plus 2x squared. That all usually goes well because people know how to multiply. This is the step that messes people up because you have to subtract, and negatives are hard. Usually people are just like, oh, it's the opposite of what was there. You can think that in your mind. Like, it's the opposite of what was there. But what's going to happen to the first column? Yeah, eliminate. Oh, I like that word. Eliminate. Cancel out, go away, disappear, whatever word you want to put for that. That will happen every time. That's kind of the point, all right? Now, remember, you're subtracting. So this is 0 minus 3. So negative 3x cubed. And then this is negative 6 minus 2. So that will be negative 8x squared. Good. And then what do you do? Our negative 2x, you're going to bring that down, and then you do it all over again. It is cyclic. You just do the same cycle over and over again. So I'm going to erase these little rainbows. We're going to start again. I want to turn an x squared into a negative 3x cubed. Minus 3x. Good. Now, don't draw the little rainbows on your paper because it's going to get really cluttered, but you're distributing that negative 3x into here. And your columns will line up. It's going to be negative 3x cubed. And then what will the next one? Yes. Minus 9x squared. Good. Yeah, your squareds will line up. And then minus 6x. Again, that part usually goes okay because distributing is something we can do. This is the step you need to be really careful about because you're subtracting. So you put a hug around the whole thing, parentheses around the whole thing, subtract. I even get some people that will like erase the symbols and write the opposite thing. Like, you can do that too, whatever works. But just remember, it's going to be opposite. So this is negative 8 plus 9. So it be 1x squared. This is negative 2 plus 6. So 4x. We're going to bring down the minus 1, and then we're going to do it one more time. So one more time. Now we're going to compare. Let me erase my little rainbows. So you have an x squared. You want it to be an x squared. There is something you actually need to multiply because it feels like you're not changing. But good. You would multiply by 1. And I'm not going to draw in the little rainbows that time. If you distribute a 1 through here, it's the same thing. So just x squared plus 3x plus 2. You want to subtract it. And whatever we get here is like the leftover. We're done. We can't bring down any more numbers because there's nothing left. What do we call that at the end? What we get left with? Your remainder. Good. Okay. So this cancels. And remember, you're subtracting. So you would be left with 1x minus 3. Good. Now, you don't have to do any more work. You just tack that on at the end. And this is how we do that. It looks a little weird, but you don't have to like do any work. You're going to put plus your x minus 3 over. And does anyone remember what that thing is called? It begins with a D. Divisor. This part's your divisor. The part underneath is the dividend. And that awful looking thing is just your answers. Okay, let's do one more of these together. I'm going to go up and do 14. Start with the first terms. You want to turn a 2x into a 2x to the 5th. What would you multiply by? X to the 4th. Good. You're going to distribute the x to the 4th through there. That will give you 2x to the 5th minus x to the 4th, and you have to subtract. First column goes away. Remember, it's opposite. So it's -5 plus 1. So what do we get left with? Yeah, -4x to the 4th. Bring down the next term. Do it again. So you have a 2x. You want to turn it into a -4x to the 4th. Minus 2x to the 3rd. And have you guys noticed that this is like your countdown? Like if this is to the 4th, the next one's going to be to the 3rd, to the 2nd, to the 1st, etc. All right, you're going to distribute that -2x cubed into here. That will give you -4x to the 4th. Oh my gosh, came out to the same thing. Isn't that crazy? And then plus 2x cubed. And then you're going to subtract. First column goes away. What are you left with? Remember, you're subtracting. Yep, 4 minus 2. 2x cubed. Bring down the -x squared. Do it again. You just do the same thing over and over again, please. You have a 2x. You want to turn it into a 2x cubed. So x squared. You distribute the x squared into here. That's going to give you 2x cubed minus x squared. Now, this is actually kind of interesting. Because what do you notice happens there? Yeah, they're both gone. When that happens, you get to bring down both of the next terms. We skipped a cycle. Isn't that nice? Less work. We like less work, right? We skipped one of the cycles. So we're going to skip a number in our countdown. Do you see how this is to the 4th? This is to the 3rd. This is to the 2nd. Next, we would have x to the 1st. We're going to skip that one. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? We skipped one. Okay. So you have a 2x. You want it to be a 2x. 1. If you distribute a 1 into there, it doesn't change. It's just 2x minus 1. And whatever we get left with here is our remainder. So this cancels. What are we left with? Good, 8. Barely fit that in there. Now, it's not any more work. You just have to write it at the end. So at the end of your answer, you're going to put plus 8 over your divisor, 2x minus 1. Now, I want to do a really quick compare and contrast. Number 14, if you flip the paper back over, is the exact same as number 9. And if you look, we got the same answer for both of them. So this one we did by synthetic division, and this one we did by long division, and it turned out the same both ways. If you had a choice, you'd probably pick synthetic division, but you get if there is a squared, synthetic won't work. You have to do it this way. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna do this first one together. And this is just practice. We're just gonna do some practice problems. So look at the divisor. What number would go in the little box off to the side? Good, -2, because it's what makes this 0. Good, okay, so put -2 in a little box. Then you're going to check if your countdown is in order. If you're missing something, you have to put a 0 to indicate you have none of them. What do you guys feel about our countdown? Is it okay? I think it's good. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so you're just going to steal all the coefficients. So you guys can just shout them out to me. What are all the coefficients from 1, 3? Good. Just take all the numbers. Draw a line. And again, that part usually goes well. Here's where the hang up happens. People start trying to do math when there's not a number there. Do you remember what you have to do first? Bring down The 1, the first number. And then it is multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. If your numbers get out of control, large, you lost a negative sign somewhere. Remember, you're not allowed a calculator, so I'm going to keep the numbers small. If it starts to spiral out of control, you had a whoopsie, okay? So we're going to multiply, add, multiply, add. -2 times 1, -2. Add the column, you get 1. Do it again. It's cyclic. Do it again. -2 times 1 is -2. Add -4. Good. -2 times -4 is 8. Add 9. -2 times 9 is -18. Add -19. Did that, like, what happened? We're good? Okay. Now, when you put the x's back in for your answer, you start with 1 less than you had in the beginning. If you had an x to the 4th and you divide out an x, you went down by 1. So this is going to be 1x to the 3rd plus what? Good. 1x squared minus 4x plus 9. And then, do you remember how I said to do the remainder always? Plus. Always put a plus. I started doing that a few years ago because the negatives were messing everybody up. Just always put plus. And then it's that number over x plus 2, your divisor. And then that is your answer. So for number 2, what makes this 0? It is a fraction and it's negative, so be really careful. It is -1/2. But remember, the numbers will still turn out okay, I promise. All right, now is your countdown all right, or are we missing something? We're missing to the 3rd. You have to put a 0 in for it because it indicates that you have none of them. So your countdown here, like your coefficients, will go 4, 0, 5, -5, 4. Are we all good together so far? Okay, bring down the first number. We're going to multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. Half of 4 would be 2, but it's going to be -2. Add the column, you get -2. And do it again. Negatives will cancel. Half of 2 is 1. Add, you get 6. Half of 6 would be 3, but it's going to be negative. Add, you get -8. -1/2 times -8 would be 4. Add, you get 8. Now, there is actually one extra step for this one. And walking around, I saw some of you remembered it. You have to divide all these numbers except the remainder. We don't touch that. We're going to divide them all by what? 2. All right, because of this 2 that's in front of the x. So if you divide all those by 2, you get 2, -1, 3, -4. Again, I realize the remainder would divide as well, but we don't touch the remainder. You have to leave that alone. So what's your final answer? It'll be 2 what? X cubed. Good vocabulary. Minus 1x squared plus 3x minus 4 plus 8 over the divisor 2x plus 1. Okay. All right. Go ahead and flip over. We'll do number 4. We'll do the other one that was the synthetic division. What number goes in the little box for this one? This one will be a little bit easier because it's not a fraction. All right, is our countdown okay, or are we missing something? We're missing 4, okay? So it'll be 1x to the 5th, no x to the 4th, and then -2, 1, -7, 2. You need to spread them out far enough so that they don't look like they're next to each other. Okay, because like if you put these 2 close, it's going to look like a 10 instead of a 1 and a 0. So just be careful with that. So bring down the first number, multiply, add, multiply, add. So 2 times 1 is 2, add, you get 2. 2 times 2 is 4, add, you get 2. 2 times 2 is 4, add, you get 5. Are we all still together here? And this is me just like explaining how to add and multiply numbers at this point. All right, 2 times 5 is 10, add 3. 2 times 3 is 6, add, you get 8. And when you put your x's back in, you start with 1 less than you had here. So this was 5th, we're going to start with 4th. It'll be x to the 4th plus 2x to the 3rd plus 2x squared plus 5x plus 3 and then plus 8 over x minus 2. That one should have been easy peasy. I feel like the other one had a fraction. That's always tough and negative signs. That one did, like, that one go okay? Or we like the fractions?
Yeah, but not the ones in the hallway. Was it 5/7?
Oh, yeah, see, I'll give you halves or thirds or fourths, but yeah, they threw like 5 halves in there. I'm not gonna do that too. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna pause again. Go back and try the two that are long division. Okay. So we have an x squared. We want it to be an x to the 5th. What would we multiply by? What's gonna go up here? Walking around, this step went okay. What'd you guys put? Yeah, x to the 3rd. Good. Don't be shy. That part went fine. Now, if you distribute an x to the 3rd through there, you're going to get x to the 5th minus 2x to the 4th plus 5x to the 3rd. And then you have to subtract. Whoops, that's not a very straight line there. Let me fix that. And then what happens to the first column? Yeah, that cancels. That's gone. All right, now look, it's like opposite day. This is really 2 plus 2. It's minus the negative. So 2 plus 2, you get 4x to the 4th. Are we okay over there? And then look, it's negative 2 minus 5. So what would that give us here? It's negative 2 minus 5. Negative 7x to the 3rd. Bring down the 15x squared. Here we go again. I'm going to just be quiet for a second so that if you had a mistake, you can fix it. All right, so now we're comparing these. How do you turn an x squared into a 4x to the 4th? What would you have to multiply by? Four x squared. Good. Okay. And you're going to distribute a 4x squared through there. That's going to give you 4x to the 4th minus 8x to the 3rd plus 20x squared. So the first column cancels. And remember, it's opposite. This is negative 7 plus 8. So what do you get? Just 1x cubed. And this is 15 minus 20. So minus 5x squared. Bring down the 0x. Please stop that. That's distracting me. And I'm going to, again, just not say anything for a couple of seconds so that if you had a mistake, you can erase and fix it. And then here we go again. How do you turn an x squared into an x cubed? What do you multiply by? X plus x. I'm going to distribute an x through there. That'll give you x cubed minus 2x squared plus 5x. We're going to subtract. First column cancels. And remember, it's opposite. This is the step that's hard. Negatives are hard. This is really negative 5. And then what? Good. Okay, plus 2. I got us back together here. Negative 5 plus 2, the negative 3x squared. And this is really 0 minus 5. So minus 5x. I'm going to bring down the negative 9. And then this is the last one. So I have an x squared. I want it to be a negative 3x squared. That means I multiply by negative 3. If I distribute a negative 3 through there, I'm going to get negative 3x squared plus 6x, kind words only, minus 15. And whatever I get here is my remainder. We're done. After this, we'll just tack it on at the end. So this is negative 5. And then what? Minus 6. So what would that give us? Yeah, negative 11x. And this is negative 9 plus 15. 6. That's the remainder. We're done. You just have to write it at the end. It's going to be plus, and I know this looks awful, but it's going to be this over your divisor. So negative 11x plus 6 over x squared minus 2x plus 5. And that's all your answer. Yeah, that's what I was planning on doing. So I'm going to pause again. I want you to try number 5. It's actually a little bit shorter. Take a minute. I'll walk around and then we'll go over that one. So you have x squared. You want to turn it into x to the 4th. You would multiply by x squared. We're going to distribute that through here. So x to the 4th plus 3x cubed minus x squared, and we're going to subtract. So the first column will cancel. Now it's opposite day, okay? It's -3 minus 3. So what do you get from that column? They don't cancel. What do you get? Good. -6x cubed. And this would be 2 plus 1. So 3x squared. I'm going to bring down the x. Do it all over again. So we have an x squared. We want to turn it into a -6x cubed. You would multiply by -6x. Distribute the -6x through here. It will be -6x cubed minus 18x squared plus 6x. Negatives are difficult. First column cancels. It's opposite day. This is 3 what? Plus 18. So that's going to be 21x squared. And this is 1x minus 6x. So minus 5x. Bring down the 1 and then one more time. What am I going to multiply by? What do I need to put up here? What's my next number? 21. Now, I said the numbers don't get out of control. Sometimes I don't really care what the remainder comes out to. It doesn't matter if that's large because we're done at that point. Go ahead and grab a seat over here. I'll be with you in 1 second. All right, so if you distribute a 21, 21x squared, that would be plus, what is that, 63x minus 21. And whatever we get here is our remainder. Remember, you're subtracting. So it's -5 minus 63. So that'll be -68x. And this will be 1 plus 21. So plus 22. Again, it doesn't matter what that is. You don't have to do any more work. You just have to tack it on at the end. So you always put plus, and it's going to be this over the divisor. So -68x plus 22 over x squared plus 3x minus 1.